everybody can go to our page. Just go to Facebook and then typing Thailand Facility Management Association. Feel free to follow and like, and then you get all the information that you need from our association. And besides the TFMA page, we also have Facility Republic, which is the face group. Everybody can feel free to write something, share something. You know, it's just like you are in the living room, and then you can read all the article or opinions from your friends in the living room. So please welcome. Just go ahead and then go to the Facebook, typing Facility Republic, and then you just join in. Okay. All right. Then just give you a structure of this meeting here. We have 1.5 hours to join the discussion. The first 1 hour will be conduct the question between me and another 2 panelists. Okay. And we leave about 20 minutes on the floor for the questions. Okay. Maybe if we see that the more of the question is coming, maybe we cut down some of the time on the first section and then go to the Q&A more. Okay. Feel free to drop your question in the chat box. Kun Bert and Kun Piti will help to guide on the question to the floor. Okay. So, all right, then I would like to start this. Before we get into our 2 panelists, we want to start with the quote from the legendary scientist in this world. His name is Albert Einstein. He said, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning." So today we will come and join to question our 2 guest speakers, and then let all the knowledge flowing around the room, and then we can share one another's. Please welcome the first panelist. He is the Research and Innovation for Sustainability Center, or RISC from MQDC. I'm sorry. And he also is the head of Creative Center for Eco-Design from Kasetsart University Architectures. Please welcome Dr. Singh, Intrachooto.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Sawadee.
It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you to join us, Dr. Singh. I know that you're very, very busy, but you can make some time for us. And it's really thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the second person, he's the Senior Managing Director for Singapore and Southeast Asia from CBRE. Please welcome Mr. Wei Loon Loh.
Hi, thank you. A pleasure to be here today.
Hello, Wei Loon.
Hi, pleasure to be here today.
Oh, hi, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, let me start with Dr. Singh. Let's get Dr. Singh really familiar with the audience in the room here. Maybe Dr. Singh can tell us a little bit what you do in your research, both in MQDC and Kasetsart University. Maybe
Sure.
just take a few minutes, please.
Sure. I'm not sure if I'm the right fit for the TFMA as one of the participants today, but my work focused mostly on research that related to well-being of buildings. I do a lot of research on materials, upcycling materials, and lately we have set up research center that focus on the study and investigation of issues related to well-being. For example, air quality, resilience, architecture, biodiversity, brain and cognitive science as its response to built environment, and And I think, yeah, these are 4 or 5 issues that we focus on mostly here in our research. So my role basically investigate, collect data, and then implement them in buildings, in smart cities, in future developments of a single building scale or a whole lot of buildings in Bangkok mostly.
Well, actually, you're the one that we really like to meet most, because a lot of the time that we are speaking about the facility management, we talk about the design. And it's very unfortunate that the people who managing the facility do not involve in the design at all. And by knowing that there are some research who doing the whole entire life cycle of the building and what the building can impact to the people after the construction is done, and use that information to be in part of the design. You know, we really thankful for your progress, and then whatever you do in RISC is amazing. I basically been there a couple of times, and I love to come back again. Hope that
I can tell you a little bit about why we set up RISC as a research center for the public. RISC is actually established 4 years ago in central Bangkok. We are fully funded by MQDC and almost 100%. The whole reason why we set this up in the central Bangkok, because we want it to be accessible to everyone. Our research is open to the public and to other developers in the industry, so that we can elevate this kind of thinking, this kind of new cutting-edge technology that will not compromise the health of the planet and of the people. So I think that's one of the reasons why we try very hard to research and then share knowledge. RISC has our own well-being and green material library, which also open to the public. And we help support SMEs that produce all these eco-innovations at no cost to them, so that they can benefit and other people can benefit from using these innovations. And hopefully we can help elevate the industry as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, that RISC is not only serving MQDC, but actually been doing giving the knowledge to other people as well.
Yes, we do share everything that we have.
That's great. Okay, we will talk more about this later on during our discussion. Let me talk to Mr. Wei Loon Loh. He probably represent the people who managing facilities, the people who solve the problem in the buildings, who use the technology to use the people to solve whatever happened in facilities. So Mr. Loh, please welcome, and then you say something about how your job is doing and then how it's challenging it is. Okay.
No, thank you for the introduction, Kun Kitty. First and foremost, thank you for inviting me to the talk tonight. It's a real pleasure to be here, and hopefully I can hope to share a little bit more about some things that we do. But like you say, what we do is really help to manage the buildings, the environment, but ultimately it's also really about the comfort and the of the occupants using the building, right? Many times I think facility management practitioners are associated with just doing the job, like preventive maintenance of AHU and cleaning. But what we do is really to make sure and ensure, the ultimate comfort and safety. And now the really big thing is the wellness of the occupants inside. And we truly believe that what we do play a small part in it. And so we're very lucky being part of CBRE. We have access to a lot of data, being one of the world's largest manager of buildings and facilities. And so that's really, really helpful for us. I've also been very lucky, like Dr. Singh, although I'm not in the research part, but I have been involved with, particularly being very lucky to be here in Singapore, to be part of their task force. One topic that was brought up by you, Kun Kitty, was the design aspect of it. So very fortunate to have been part of their design for maintenance, because we truly believe that a lot of the maintenance issues can be solved upfront when the design is correct and properly spec'd out. I'm sure there are many, many stories that facility managers can share about poor design. And when a well-designed building comes into play, it's really easy, all right? But obviously one of the key things, you know, and this is partly because of the acceleration due to COVID, is the use and adoption of smart building technologies. And that's a really powerful thing these days. I think what COVID has helped was really to help accelerate the adoption of digitization. But more than happy to share what we have, and also here to learn from everyone else in the audience too.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, that's just keep the audience an overview of both of you guys doing. So let me leading to the first question. As Mr. Loh has been mentioned that FM is about 3 key elements. Basically, it's about place, peoples, and the process. And the place itself is basically tend to be an innovation of what Dr. Singh has been doing. It's about the materials, about design, about the technology that we put in. The people-wise is about the people who are using it, the people who are visitors to the building, the people who are managing the buildings. And the last portion is about the process, how we use it, how we manage the building, what is work order, and how we analyze the building, how we plan it, how we operate it, and then how we maintain it. It's all about the principles of what we are doing. And then actually the facility can lead the quality of life, which is the name of the topics today that we name how facility transform a quality of life. So we really believe that facilities can make change and can make impact to the people. So when we talk about the impact to the quality of life, we have to take a look at all the elements of quality of life. And the first thing that we have to realize that every breath we take, you know, is priceless. So the indoor air qualities is something that the main issue of every buildings. Okay, and my first question will ask to Dr. Singh. I take a look at the research in your website, and you are talking a lot about VOC, the volatile organic compound. This thing become something that very new, you know, basically it's very new to a lot of people, but it become very important thing to you as a research firms. And can you share us a little bit about this, why the VOC is very important in the facility, and why and how we can reduce that from facility elements?
I think this is one example that the design becomes so crucial to facility manager, because in any building projects, you need to use materials, right? And if you don't know that how material actually behave or contribute to the quality of life, then you can choose material based on beauty, based on cost, based on availability, based on blah, 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 blah. But one thing that you mentioned just now is VOC, or volatile organic compounds, which is organic chemicals that actually emit from the material in our environment at room temperature. That means you don't have to burn it. You don't have to scrub it. You don't have to do anything with it. It just gives off this gas on a continuous basis.
And it's really harmful too.
And it can be very harmful to everyone who occupy the room. So basically, if you don't know how designers actually choose the material to put inside the buildings. Then you have to deal with this kind of off-gassing on decades after it has been installed. So facility manager may not even know that these kind of materials has been giving off gas or VOC inside the buildings, and you don't even recognize you need to flush the building on a continuous basis. And that's why sometimes when people are getting asthma or have this allergic reaction more and more today, because they spend more time inside more than outside. And we don't know because you don't see it. You only feel it. When you have a lot of VOC, you feel like itchy sometimes, or red eyes, or sneezes, but you might not think this kind of thing comes from the materials like the floorings, the paint, the carpet, even the furniture. So how would facility manager manage that when they don't even know the spec that architects or contractor put inside the buildings? And how would you know that you need to flush the room on a regular basis? Because that's the most effective way to flush out VOC. You don't know.
So basically, it's like when you just move in the new house, and you smell something very strong. So yeah, that's the same thing. Right? Yeah. And maybe all the cleaning agents that we're using. Okay, I understand now, because I used one of the spray cleaning my kitchen, and I hate it so bad. You know, every time I doing it, I smell really strongly. It's a strong odor, and that's a lot of VOC then.
Yeah, and if you do that, the best way to handle it is to open the windows to let the breeze actually help dilute this kind of, chemical in the air.
So Dr. Singh, basically you're saying that before you design, the designer should know exactly what how much VOC will contain in that room,
which is not difficult in today's market, because they always tell you that it's low VOC or no VOC, because that's the part of the selling points. It's just that sometimes designer hasn't been properly educated or informed that there are additional material growing in numbers every day that try to deal with these issues. But air quality is not only about VOC, it's about dust, about PM 2.5, PM1, PM10 that Thailand and Singapore as well has been dealing with every December and January, and they always come back. And this is also the same thing that designers need to think, how shall we put in filter to prevent dust of such kind to come into interior space? And that is a part of designers. Otherwise, you just have to deal with the dust, or just open the window. It's not good enough when the air outside is so full of dust. I think is something that we need to recognize more. 5 years ago, we don't have these problems with PM 2.5. This happened a couple of years ago, so it's brand new for facility manager to deal with.
Agree. I think thanks, Dr. Singh, to brought up about the PM 2.5 problem. I think every year during the winter season, December, January, February, we have dealing the same problem in the last 2 or 3 years. Maybe once we already have a technologies guys here, Mr. Wei Loon, can you share with us how you see this problem in other countries and how you face it, how you make some change or approving or make some solution about the PM 2.5?
Well, I think Dr. Singh answered the question earlier. Look, it goes back to very basic science. The example that Dr. Singh shared just now is open the windows and flushing it out. That's what needs to happen at its most basic fundamental stage. By doing that, you expel the bad stuff away and you take in the good stuff. The problem is, when you open your window and the air outside is bad,
Yes.
you only increase the bad air inside, right?
That's right.
But clearly, I think particularly with COVID as well, particularly when there's a lot of concerns around whether COVID is transmitted by air, the haze situation in those months of the year, people have been getting a lot more accustomed to using the right filters so they can get good clean air filtered through before it comes into the buildings. What a lot of people don't realize is that's only one part of the equation. The other part of the equation, to Dr. Singh's point, is flushing it out. And too often, operators don't flush enough of the air inside. Which is why sometimes, if you ever notice, if you ever step into a hospital or a data center, you realize that there's a difference in the air movement when you step inside, because really what they're doing is trying to expel air through creating a difference in pressure in the building. But what has happened over the last few years is that, it used to be very manual. You have to manually do it. You have to, perhaps reprogram the BMS in your building or manually schedule such events to happen. But what has technology brought on is that there's a lot more automation around it. There's a lot more data analytics, right? Obviously, it involves making sure that you have sensors put around the place, sensing where the air inside, sensing the air outside, and doing that automatically without any human intervention. And so with the advances we have now, putting it simply, you have the computer, they can calculate the algorithms, and they can push and schedule those events automatically without any people touching it, right? I still remember the days when after you do a big office fit out, you do everything, you lay the carpets in, you have to open the windows for a week or two to let it move. But these days, really through the advances of technology, you can program the building, particularly the ventilation system. One other thing that's really important, though, is that what most people don't realize as well is that if you don't purge the building frequently enough, dust, like anything, collects. And it collects in the air vents, in the places you don't imagine it to be. And so purging helps to clear that out all the time. The science hasn't changed in the last decade. What has changed is how people can do it, how buildings can do it, how systems can do it without human intervention. Right.
And then some people are saying that sometimes when you clean facility on the floor, it's cheaper than cleaning something on the ceilings.
Yes.
So, right?
Yes.
It's like a 10 times cost less, believe it or not, I think a lot of people are saying that they tend to focus on cleaning people to be more diligent on the work, cleaning something on the floor more and more, okay, to make the air cleaner by the end. So, okay, I think that's a good idea.
I'd like to add to what Wei Loon was saying. We have one project that we did a year and a half ago. We add sensor to detect the air quality inside the room. But at that time, we used CO2 sensor because we realized that we built a lot of condominiums, a lot of units that are not very big, and people get fatigued, often stay inside condominiums all day, watching Netflix and, having spent time with, girlfriends, boyfriends, and they always ask us, why do they feel fatigued at the end of the day? They don't do anything. They just rest all day, having good food, watching movies and things like that. But somehow at the end of the day, they don't feel well. So we realized that with a condominium the size of, let's say, 25 square meter or 30 square meters with 2 persons in the room.
Oh my gosh.
The level of CO2 can skyrocket within an hour to over 2,000, 3,000 ppm. So we add this CO2 sensor. Once it reaches 2,000 ppm, the curtains opens, and the windows open automatically. It was really weird, really surreal for me. Like suddenly the windows open and the curtain open, but it really helped. This automation that Wei Loon was talking about is really help improve the air quality of the room. So I think in terms of facility management, yes, automation become important because you don't recognize when you need to open the windows actually. Sensor helps. So this kind of managing of buildings become more and more full of sensors and automations. And I think in the future there will be more.
So you suggest that maybe in the future, all the developer will probably have to think about this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. If health become a major concern more and more, yes, we now put in this kind of sensor in the bedroom, because people cannot wake up to open the windows or to let the fresh air in. But if once the sensor detect CO2 too high or too much of VOC, then it start to operate while you are sleeping. So you can better sleep.
Very interesting. Let me brought the audience to the next aspect of the quality of life. People are always saying that the water is the starting point of the living thing in this world. And actually, the people who are living in the buildings also need water every day for their activity, even the drinking or using in the toilet and restroom, and even cooking. So the other thing, the next question to you is, when you're doing the research regarding to the water qualities, what you are really looking for, and how you manage the water qualities?
I think Wei Loon answer better than me in the water arena, because we are dealing with water problem all the times. Sometimes people call this the water is too murky or smelly or thing like that on a constant basis. So we are dealing a lot with this kind of biofilm inside, or the thing that got, you know, a lot of people who buy units or buy condominiums today, they sometimes buy because of investment prospect, as opposed to live in. So when you let the pipe dry, you always need to flush the system again. Otherwise, you let bacteria grow inside, Legionnaire and things like that. So I think we haven't done much research in terms of water improvement, but we have been looking at different technology to avoid this kind of color, smell or odor, and this kind of residues that got stuck, and bacteria got stuck inside the piping systems that has been left unused or unclean for a long time.
So basically, you emphasize this kind of water quality in design when you are working with the designer, right?
A must, because in all of our projects that we involve, MQDC is warranty for 30 years.
Oh my God!
If anything happens during 30 years, we have to go in to fix it. So that's important for us to get it right. And every time we fix it, we got it recorded so that we don't repeat the same mistake. It's so costly every time we go in, so we don't want to go in too often.
Oh, I like the policies when you have the standard.
Because you're a customer. You like the policy because you like.
Yeah, 30 years is a very long time, right? So okay, so basically, if you set the standard like 30 years, then designer will work their ass off.
Yes.
To make sure that it's not broken, you know, that often.
Researcher need to work our ass off, because we don't want to introduce technology or material that will not last or create problems on an ongoing basis. So we work with the city manager a lot to get feedback on the innovation that we introduce into projects.
Okay, Mr. Loh, can you add on the water quality, and also I think you probably expertise on the technology to control the water usage in the buildings. There are so many technologies right now to control the waters, because the less the water spending on each of the point is the less water spending in the entire building. So Please share your thought and idea about the water thing.
Yeah, I think Dr. Singh mentioned a really critical point. Water quality, look, we can't impact what goes in, but we can impact what goes around in the building. So the key word that Dr. Singh mentioned was the plumbing and the piping equipment that's used, right? And obviously that's, design, the use of materials, because really the water that goes inside it, once it goes inside, it's hard to find out where it goes to, right? Water is one of those strange things that it just goes everywhere, right? It doesn't follow what you want it to do, but it does follow where it flows through. Particularly around pipes. A lot of water quality issues is revolving around the pipings in the buildings. And it's common knowledge and a bit of common sense, I suppose, that as the building ages, the pipes ages, and therefore the water quality kind of decreases over time. But that is a key factor, especially with a lot of cities with aging infrastructure, to actually check and regenerate the piping to maintain that water quality. Now, where the water supply comes in, obviously, is a key quality, and you can put the filters, you can put the specific type of filtration, but the pipes are a big cause of water quality issues in the building. But surprisingly enough, I think in the general building that's operated, there are two parts of a building that uses the most water. Now, some of it may be common to the audience who have engineering backgrounds, but what most people don't realize is the one thing that uses the most water in the building is actually cooling towers. So that keeps the chilled water, aircon running, the things that cools the chiller, like a fridge, right? Those things use an immense amount of water, and because of the nature of the design, it's prone to a lot of inefficiencies. And so cooling tower manufacturers have come up with many ways to minimize the loss of water in that space. The other one is definitely, and it sounds strange, but it's actually the use of toilets. Toilets uses more than half of what a building uses. Significant area of water waste over there. And so, when you go into sort of a new 2021 building, you will see that, if you notice, and unfortunately, because as a facility manager, we are made to take notice of it, the water coming up from the toilet, the basins are of low flow. So they don't flow as much as before. So it reduces the water usage. It still flushes, but it's just lower flow, right? If you notice the older toilets and older basins, the water flow is much higher, a lot stronger, which again is waste, right? So obviously the best way to not waste water is not to use any, but that's impossible. but really reduce the flow. And that's a key thing. And again, there are many technologies out there. The Japanese have this great toilet system that are quite innovative around it. But many people have come up with new ways of how to reduce water flow, right? But still have the right effect still. And that's a key thing.
Or use recycle paper, recycle water.
Exactly, recycle water. The other key thing is, the old head taps that you could twist and turn, and then it changes the water pressure. As you turn the tap longer and faster, more water comes out. These days is about making sure there's an even flow, no matter how much you turn the tap when you wash it, right? Is to make the flow the same, right? But that really is the way to reduce water usage in the facility. The toilets and the cooling towers. I know they're not really part of the building, but that's where you use the most water.
But I saw one technology called infinite cooling that recycle water steam through the chillers, turn them back into the chiller again. So kind of cool technology. You might want to look at infinite cooling technology.
I'm definitely learning something new every day.
Fascinating technology. Very simple too, with kind of net screen on top.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
If you use a lot of recycled water in the toilets and places like that, do you find that the toilet turn brown or yellow quickly?
No,
More quickly than using regular water? No.
no. Again, I'm very fortunate to live in Singapore.
Hmm.
The water we drink is recycled water too.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
You know,
Okay.
so and you know, I think it's world famous. Singapore is a water scarce country.
Hmm.
We have to buy water from other neighbors. We have to import water in. And so one of the things is to reduce and really regulate how we as a nation could, you know, not be reliable on water. It's considered an issue of national security, right? Or strategic importance, probably more important than oil. As Kun Kiti mentioned, water is a source of life. So in Singapore, there's a lot of usage of recycled water, and there's a lot of filtration, ozone technologies, HEPA filters, reverse osmosis, you know, the whole list goes on, right? And that's why it keeps, I think, you know, for drinking water, it's recycled. So definitely for toilets, the recycled water, there's no change in that visual quality.
I see. But you do have different level of recycling technology used for separate purposes.
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And it all makes sense too that the water that flush in the system maybe not need that clean waters. It just need to be clean enough to just flush it. So why we have to waste for the good water to use in that system, right? Okay. I would like to bring two of you guys to the new aspect of quality of life. As we know that the humans, when they stay together in the same buildings, if we take a look at the building as a process box, we put energy, we put resource, we put monies in, what we get is the quality of living plus waste. You know, we cannot get away of waste, you know, it's unavoidable. You know, the waste, we talk about the solid waste here, okay? It's garbage that people are eating or throwing things away, packaging and things like that. But I learned from Dr. Singh that you have the research doing a lot of building materials from the recycled materials. Maybe you can share the audience a little bit of this, why we have to do this, and what is the success story?
Actually, it's my passions. You may not know that in every landfill, in any city around the world today, in modern society, 1/3 of the landfills is usually filled with construction waste today by weight. That's a lot of materials. And nearly half of material excavated from the earth, from nature today, is used in architecture and construction industry. So that means not only you use or you excavate a lot of material in this industry to build city, to build buildings, you throw away constantly. And if you checked the waste per person, per capita in cities, usually double the amount of people who live in the countryside in most countries. The more developed countries, the more waste you produce. So that means waste is generated in the same trajectory as population growth. The more population you have, the more waste you have, the more developed you become, the more waste you produce. Is that crazy?
Yeah, agree.
That is totally crazy. And we are having trouble dealing with that in Thailand because Thai people do not separate waste. And usually if you don't deal with waste, they all will end up in the Gulf of Thailand, in the ocean and the sea. There's nowhere else to go if you don't manage them. There's river and then the oceans. So what we have been doing, we think that if we can reclaim the 30% from landfill, back into constructions, if we can reclaim floating waste in the river and ocean back into the construction industry, then we have a chance.
30% is a big chunk.
It's huge.
Huge.
But
yeah.
you have to realize that which other industry, aside from architecture and construction, can absorb this kind of waste on innovations. If you can take these kind of waste, turn them into innovative materials, innovative products, which other industry can absorb such innovations?
Not much.
Not many.
Not many.
The construction industry is so large in any country. It's a determinant for the growth of any GDP in any countries. So basically, if all of us in this industry help absorb this kind of innovation from already available resources, then we have a chance to make a cleaner world. And that's why we have been exploring that. The latest project, we reclaim a lot of plastic waste from Gulf of Thailand and turn them into many materials. We use different binders. Sometimes we bind them with concrete, sometimes with different kind of polymers, and turn them into different applications. Turn them into roads, into concrete curbside, turn them into carpet, turn them into many, many things, piping, wall coverings, and things like that. So we hope that we can help these small innovators jumpstart their business and also absorb and help the world clean up the waste through this huge development that we are doing here in Thailand.
Wow, that's I'm really glad at what we hear today. I think if 30% has been cut down, that's a lot of landfill will be improved, and we can save a lot of space for our kids, right? So
but we throw away faster than I can reclaim them, or any of us can reclaim them. That's the problem.
So, Mr. Loh, what you're thinking about this? Not about the recycling aspect, but about the reduce and reuse aspect.
Oh, that's better. That's by far better. I think Singapore is lead us by light years ahead of Thailand.
please
light years ahead. We are sucks at it. We are not so good at it as a society. I'm so sorry to say that.
I do think that it's interesting, the comparison, because I had the opportunity to live in Japan for a few months before. I used to live in Taiwan for a few years, and by comparison, Singapore sucks. But the concept of reduce, reuse, it's all grounded in behaviors.
Yes.
Right. It's all grounded in behaviors.
True.
The concept of the concept of, for example, very simple, going to a shopping set, a grocery shop in Singapore or Malaysia. When you buy something, you're automatically given a grocery bag. And so obviously people now say, okay, it's 10 cents to buy one, right? Or 20 cents, or that you have to pay a bit of money to actually buy a plastic bag to carry your things home.
Yeah.
So that's slowly changing the behaviors of it. And because people don't like to pay any more than they should, what they do is, I'll take my own bag to carry my groceries home, right? And also the things such as, when even at, takeaways, like, for example, these days, you do a lot of, because of COVID, a lot of online ordering, a lot of food delivery. You get options in Grab or Food Panda, reduced cutlery, right? And maybe the food bill goes a little bit cheaper. But really the concept of, reuse, reduce, it's all rooted in human behavior. And one of the big things around it is, how do we educate human behavior through good community practices, right? Awareness, and that is something that, as a community with the government, it has to be hand in hand together, right? Because when it doesn't, when the whole community with the public sector does not work together, it's difficult to push, right? That's why societies like in countries like Japan, and most of us are familiar, when they do recycle, even the PET bottle, the plastic cap at the top, the plastic covering around, it's all separated. For them, it's considered a way of life. For us, it's considered
a pain in the butt.
A pain in the butt.
It's of time.
But again, it's all about human behaviors and how we change that through awareness, education.
Right.
But you know, these are the things that really drive those changes.
What about those technologies like reduce some paper use in the toilet by using the jet hand dryers? Would that help? I mean, in terms of the paper?
Definitely. Those will help. You know, there's, you know, for example, hair dryers using air. You know, there's a lot of new technologies that help promote this. But again, you know, to Dr. Singh's point, the biggest use of of waste, producers of waste, is us ourselves. So by reducing what we use or reusing what we use every day, we make a significant impact to waste. If we keep on using the same things as we do, we waste more than we throw away more stuff than we use. Yeah, we will never be able to get the positive impact.
I'd like to ask you guys this. Help me out here. I'm giving up in handling waste situation here in Bangkok. I try very hard to educate people in community that we have been building, and somehow they're not separating waste. So now we are looking into AI robotic solutions that that, you know, for the hell with people. Let's get robots to separate all this waste, you know, like. What do you think as a facility manager? How do you see that as an alternative to future way to help mitigate the problem with the environment that we have waste overflow today?
Let me share with you first. I've been practicing the recycle my waste in my household probably more than 7 or 8 years now. So I do separate basically 4 or 5 materials every time when I throw away: paper, the card box, which is 2 separate things. The paper, card box, the plastic, and the aluminum can, and the glass. And by doing every day, I realized that from 7 years, actually I get the money back from my return on the materials, about 1.5% of my grocery. Let's say if I spend 10,000 baht for my grocery this month, I will get about 150 baht for my recycle to sell. Okay, so basically, when we get back to Dr. Singh's question, recycle, I think, is about profit or benefit that can get back to their pocket. If the people who are throwing away doesn't realize that what they're gonna get when they are doing it, they probably don't have any motive to doing so. So, but if they can throw away and they get the bonus point or they get the money back, instantly, I think that will work. But let's hear Wei Loon's the idea that you've seen any other place.
Yeah, just expanding your point, incentive and motivation. The other motivation is your waste doesn't get removed if you don't separate it. That's actually a concept that's actually practiced in Taiwan. When they come and collect your waste, and these are trained waste collectors, they can tell if you haven't separated.
I see.
They can tell if you haven't separated, and food waste is separated, recyclables are separated. If you don't separate it, they will not throw your waste away. And so your rubbish will build up at home, which is obviously not pleasant. But in terms of AI and robots, I think the technology hasn't advanced yet to a point where it can serve the scale of, say, a condominium community. But when it starts to reach a level of, say, a city level or even a large district or precinct or neighborhood level, it is possible. But unfortunately, that technology is large. And so it can only be implemented in a specific, say, landfill facility or waste facility, right before the point of a landfill, right? There are technologies that can separate it out, aluminum, steel, extraction of the raw materials or expensive materials. But it's large, it's still bulky, right? And it's noisy, and it's, it has a smell to it, right?
Yeah.
So that technology is there, but it hasn't quite advanced yet to where could we install it into a condominium building, right? I'm very sure in our lifetimes, there will come a day when, that technology is ready. But right now, really at the neighborhood level, yes, maybe not quite yet at community level.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. I think we probably have a couple questions before we jump into the Q&A. And one thing that I would like to ask Mr. Loh is about the energy saving initiative. Okay. I think energy has been heck of a deal. The buildings, for example, is one location that take a lot of energies into it. Maybe you just share with us any initiative, that new technology you've seen so far that probably can come and useful in today's facilities.
How much time do we have left?
Maybe like 5 minutes.
Look, I think there has been many advances, right? But let me touch upon some of the key things. The one of the biggest use of and I'm sure everyone by now in the audience will know about the lights, reducing the use of lights, aircon, temperature to reduce the use of energy. But I go back to the original point that we stated around design. What if a building in the tropics can be designed to ventilate at 24 to 26 degrees Celsius at all times without the use of aircon?
That's true.
That is a major source of energy savings.
Right. I think that's a good point. Elimination is one thing that we have to do in the first place.
Exactly, and this clearly with the emphasis on climate change, with the emphasis on specifically the UN Sustainability Development Goals. Every major government in the world is signing up to this and pledging to climate change initiatives. Really, what everyone's looking into is how do we get buildings to be not producers of energy waste, but actually net zero buildings, right? And so some of the new technologies, for example, I talk about elimination of usage of aircon. Aircon is a major producer, right? And there's going to be a lot of technologies that are around that regulate that, the usage of that. But going back to my main point around, the IAQ, it's about putting the automation in to continuously regulate that without the need for human intervention. Because computers and software will do it faster, more accurately than we will ever be able to do it.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please, Dr. Singh. No, please, yeah.
I think the air-conditioned space, it takes a lot of energy. And when you talk about well-being and air quality, you want to add fresh air into the space. And imagine you add fresh air into the space and you have air conditioning system. Imagine how much more energy you need to spend on cooling down that fresh air that come in. So there are a lot of technology that go with air conditioning system today, like the energy recovery ventilations, that you try to recover the coolness in the air. And so these are the technologies that have been integrated more and more today to help both enhance well-being, air quality, and also energy saving in parallel.
That's true. Interesting point. I have one last question here before we get into the Q&A. to Dr. Singh's. I see your research on how the lightings is impact to the people's thinking and feelings. This is very interesting. I never thought of that. And then when I take a look at the research, I just found out that actually the lighting is really get something done to the people thinking and feeling at the same time. They have a wording called circadians. Maybe Dr. Singh, you can give us a little bit, because you apply
body clock kind of thing.
Body clock, yeah.
Yeah. I think light. Let me put it this way: when you wake up or when you go to sleep, would you like the same kind of light? No, you don't. When you want to go to sleep, you want calmer, cozy, kind of warmer light.
Yeah.
And in the morning, you want brighter light to wake you up, to help you to get into the groove, into the mood of going to the office to work. I think that's the kind of ideas of the different lighting levels throughout the day. And how do you manage that? For example, in our experience before COVID lockdown, you kind of like, okay, we want this cozy lighting because you usually come back in the evening, want to calm down, from all the busyness in the office during the day. But when you spend all day at home, lighting become very important because you don't want coziness when you wake up at 7 in the morning, and then in the evening it will turn you into what do you call chronic what's that word?
Depression.
Yeah, depression. Yeah. So I think lighting help a lot if you understand it. For example, I might use 4,000 Kelvin for area in the morning that I want to wake up. I want to see a brighter light, and I use 3,000 Kelvin in the area where I want to kind of feel cool down and want to slow my pace down a little bit. So different light levels is important, but the most important is daylight. I think daylight can help regulate your body clock much better than artificial light. But when you talk about managing a lot of these facilities, you need to understand this and understand the new mode of time that you are spending at home more. Things have changed, and I think designer needs to understand that in the past, designer may want to focus on the chilling down, focus on the 5 hours spent a day at home, as opposed to now 24 hours a day spent at home. So that's the thing that I think we all will feel this more and more.
So can we say, can you flip the other way around? If the people understand the circadian concept, so they can apply the right colors and level of light to the space that they want to use. For example, if like I got a different feeling when I walk into the grocery store. Some of them doing very calm, peaceful, really warm. So I'm kind of slow motion, and pick up things really slow, right? And the other one is they're really bright, and they use like 6,500 Kelvins. So it's really blue,
so bright.
So it's like, yeah, really so bright. So, but people are really walking fast.
Alert.
Yeah, alert, and then they make a quick decision. So that is the same impact that affect to the people, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And glare, of course, glare is a problem. In any lighting situation, I think when you have more windows, and people like to have more windows, and I think the design of the space, when you're concerned about lighting, glare is another issue that we have to pay attention to. The light. Just now I talk about the temperature, light temperature, the 2,000, 4,000 Kelvins. That's more about, but it's not about glaring. Glare, has a different story. You don't want to look in. The lower the glare is, the better, so you can see and your eyes can feel more relaxed and not strained all the time. I think that's something important in parallel to thinking about circadian lighting.
Okay. All right. We have about half an hour, and then we talk. Before we get to the end of the section, I would like to go to the question that's sent to us in prior to the meetings, when we doing the registration, we ask people what would they like to ask to the panelists. And this is the first question. They said, what is your recommendation for facility manager to prepare to cope with environmental crisis? For instance, future pandemics, potential disaster, wildlife fires, volcano eruption, and the sea level flooding. That's a huge question, huh? So,
I think it's brilliant. The question is brilliant because in the past we talk about sustainability in building design. Yeah, we want to be efficient. We want to turn things into a balance. You know, saving energy, assuming that you have energy, so you want to save it. Assuming you have water, you want to save the water. Assuming that you have this and that, and you want to save and make it more efficient. But the questions is a different trajectory, because the questions seem to ask, if you don't have those things, you have volcano eruptions, suddenly you don't have any electricity to save, you don't have water to drink because they're all broken. How would you handle those things? I think the question try to ask us about resiliency. How do facility manager handle situations that beyond that is about future scenarios that might happen? So I think the best way that we can do is to anticipate potential scenarios that might happen in your area. In Thailand, we don't have to worry about volcano eruptions or snow blizzards. I hope not. So we basically want to handle the extreme heat situations or the huge flood that might come in. So then if you have these scenarios, you have to set the stage or plan for those scenarios. It may not happen, but if you think it will happen and highly will happen, then you work with the designers, you work with the planners, you work with the architects to design things for those scenarios. I think that's the best way to do it, to get a facility manager that has that kind of vision involved early on, in case those scenarios happen.
I used to have a really funny question in my mind. Say that what if Bangkok have snow? I mean, we're gonna die for sure, you know, we're not ready.
Then you plan for that scenarios, but I hope not. That's extreme, but you can definitely think that if there would be blizzards in Bangkok, then you have to plan for that.
So Mr. Loh,
scenario.
Yeah, talking about this is probably involving the crisis plan. So what is your view on it?
Well, I can tell you the worst things that can happen. So, you know, Dr. Singh, you know, mentioned, you know, a couple of key things again, right? Anticipation, planning, scenario readiness. No one is ever fully prepared for anything. There's no scenarios whereby everything is ready, right? Because the cost of keeping anything ready for everything is just enormous. But what's really important is around, you know, having a team around. What a lot of facility managers fall into the trap of is they think about how to manage the crisis or scenario by imagining the scenario themselves. What is really useful is that to build a team around with their teams around what are the things that can happen, because, you know, different people will bring different ideas to, right, and different experiences. Particularly when, you know, you're operating, and Singapore is a small city state, right, in the middle of no disaster zone. So very lucky. But everywhere else, you know, you talk about Indonesia, you talk about the Philippines, even Thailand, even Malaysia, right? You have typhoons, you have monsoons, you have flooding issues, earthquakes, volcanoes. Actually, Singapore is the only country in Southeast Asia that doesn't have any of this, right? The worst we get is, you know, the weather turns to 22 degrees and there's haze, all right? But for other markets, you know, what really is about forming that team of people, right? Other people will bring different experience. So maybe one person in the team will bring up what happens if we have to deal with flood, what happens if we have to deal with fire, what happens if we have to deal, and it's through planning of these scenarios that you are ready to meet and be able to anticipate when a crisis happens. To Dr. Singh's point, it's all about anticipation and scenario planning. And unfortunately, it is a little bit of, one of those things you keep at the back of your filing cabinet or your hard drive. And when it happens, you're going to pull it out. So what do you do in these situations? And planning is one thing. You then have to do the actual desktop exercise about it. Right? You can't just plan for it. You got to practice. You have to practice. And as dull as it seems, practice is what makes it perfect, right? I mean, no one goes to the Olympics without training. No difference to preparing for any crisis situations. It's about preparing, planning, and then training for it.
Okay. We have another, I think a couple more questions that are very interesting. They said, as we are approaching the aging societies, what kind of facility could improve quality of life for elderly? I think I heard a lot of people projecting that only in Thailand, we will come to the aging society in the next 10 years, where the elderly is the amount of elderly is more than the people who are work at the work level. So that's an interesting question. So Dr. Singh, can you lead this one? How can we fix this?
I think we all know by common sense, as we get older and if we get sick and frail, you want to be with nature more. You want to appreciate trees, bird sounds, outside air, sunlight, this kind of thing more. So I think facility manager, if understand that situation. So I think in aging society, the facility for those population, the growing populations, the design will have to change, because that's the thing that will be appreciated more, would be something that how can you manage nature better. I think the role of facility manager in the future will change for sure. In the past, facility manager may look at buildings, built environment, and manage it, manage efficiency and this and that. But as the whole population grow into aging society, maybe facility manager is a manager. If you imagine the world is a facility, as opposed to a building is a facility, then that view of the efficiency, the understanding of managing resources, I think facility manager is the most equipped to manage these larger world resources. And the role will expand because people are getting older and they appreciate being outside, well managed very much. And as we all know, whether you like it or not, no older people want to stay in medical center no matter what, no matter how well you manage. No matter what you do, they all want to go home and to be outside and to be in the park and things. So I think this kind of thing will have to be think about in future buildings and future development.
So at least if they have to come to the hospital, the hospital have to decide like the house, or something really close to the nature, something like this.
Yes.
So Mr. Loh, do you have anything to add on this aging society?
Think differently.
No, it's not a topic that just impacts Thailand. I think it's a topic that impacts all countries. Particularly economies are maturing, birth rates are dropping. It's a issue that all countries in Asia Pacific, maybe bar one or two countries, have to face. I like the word, the term Dr. Singh mentioned around, facility managers are not just about resource optimization. The days are, there used to be a day, and there still are days where FMs or facility managers seem to be optimize the resource you're given and make it the most efficient facility you can run with the limited resources you have.
Yeah.
That could be a view, and that's a way to leverage the facility managers. But more importantly, I think the point is the facility managers are more and more seen to be a custodian, and how they can, again, going back to the original point made, was maximize the comfort of the users in that facility, whether they are elderly, they are, you know, in the millennials, knowing the occupants of the building, knowing the community in that facility. How does a facility manager or a community manager maximize the comfort, the wellness of those people using that facility? And I think Dr. Singh mentioned correctly, right? If, I'm getting older too. I much prefer to walk out in the sun, walk out in the park, see the trees, hear the birds sing. But I do think that, you know, those are part of design, you know, how design plays a part in the building, but how FMs can actually use those to maximize the comfort of those.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Hey, I like your point that if you focus on well-being of the people, then you start seeing different things, not beyond optimizations. You start offering other things, other view, other facilities sometimes as an alternative, because you are closer, you know the operations, you understand how the thing operates. Designers just, you know, finish and then they're gone and they're left problem with the FM. So I think start connecting these things will help designers make better facilities and better building for sure.
Oh, that's good. Maybe we need the people like Dr. Singh to spread out the idea of having FMer to help on the design perspective. So yeah. we've been talking about this like at least 10 years, but sometimes, you know, the people who design, they love design, they're working with the building owner and then they come up with something very beautiful, but at the end it's hardly work, you know. But
not just designers in terms of aesthetics, but even let's go back to the plumbing design. Can you imagine that we have problem with plumbing all the time in most buildings? I don't know why, and we hire professional designers of this, you know, mechanical system and plumbing system, and somehow we end up with this problem. So now what do? We contactการประปา นครหลวง is the
metropolitans water
metropolitans administrations,
MWA.
Yeah. So that because they're the one who know water system the best, so we decided that from now on, if we design condominium or city or any buildings, we want to ask them to sit in the design panels to avoid this kind of future problems. That's just a way of us trying to integrate people who know best. So maybe in the future, we will invite facility manager, not the designer of the plumbing system to do it, but facility manager to sit on our panels to say, hey, if you do it this way, you end up with this kind of leakages and it goes everywhere, you know, like roof leak. You don't even know where the holes are, but you know that here is, you know, the rain coming down the roof, the ceiling, but the holes can be somewhere else, you know, like 10 meters away.
I got the one very interesting question. They asked, what is the major transform point for commercial space? They're probably asking about like the department store or some communities market, something like this. I think if we say that the condominiums or the household will be changed to welcome the well-being, then the commercial space will have to do the same thing. So what do you guys think? Are we going to see like there'll be involved more of the natural light in the building? There'll be more of the clean elements into the each floor that they're coming up, you know, like we've seen some building has been doing. They put the trees on top of the building, something like this. Is that going to happen in commercial space?
Are you asking me or are you asking Wei Loon?
What are you guys?
I honestly think that those features that you mentioned around, building technologies or building features, green facades, green areas, this will become a primary attraction point for developers to attract tenants in and commercial spaces. But actually, some of the best use of commercial space is when smart developers and and I use the word smart, when building owners smartly leverage the use of community into their space. There are some commercial spaces in Bangkok that I do remember pre-COVID that really attract a lot of people coming in, not because the building is any better than anywhere, but because they really know how to use their space to really leverage the power of the community that comes into the space, right? Again, I'll take an example from Singapore. Most of you are familiar with, or at least seen the pictures of Marina Bay, right? The famous building.
Yeah.
But what most people don't realize is that there is an alliance of developers in that environment, whereby they use the space to enhance the community there. So the office tenants, the people who go to work there, they will hold Zumba workouts. They will use it to promote health and wellness activities. They will invite pop-up stores into that space, right? And create a community of, not just work, but work, live, play. And I think that's a really important concept. You can install the most advanced features, the best looking building, but if you don't integrate how you work, live, and play, people won't get attracted to it.
I like the idea. It's more like a zoning. It's more like you will take a look at the people journeys every day before you design the whole building. So it doesn't mean that you have to put like the 100% on the greatest building all time, right? But it can be as a simple or low version of the building, but they are really functional together. When they are close to each other, they support one another, and they become like a communities, a great communities. They have life between that buildings. I like the ideas. I like the ideas. Another thing, do you have any point on this?
I'm convinced that we don't know what future commercial building like shopping mall would be like. We are struggling big times. What's next? What's kind of shopping mall would be like after COVID? If people continue to be afraid or fearful of large gatherings, afraid of being infected by the disease, this time is COVID, and I don't know what's next because there are more and more coming. So we don't know. We are asking the same questions. What would be the next model for commercial shopping mall spaces? So now we are fixing the fear. Basically, if people don't come for shopping mall because they fear that they might get infected, then we try to focus on the mechanical systems, adding ozones into the system, adding UVC light into the whole piping system, adding more and more to make sure that people, and then communicate to the people that, hey, our facility is safe, you can come and shop here, and then show these kind of vignettes of technology that have been implemented. So coming in and out of the shopping mall, you start getting spray on with all these, disinfectants, temperature control, and all of these sensors. So that's what we do now because we don't know. And even if we decided to build a new shopping mall tomorrow, I'm sure the discussion will continue a lot. What would be the look and feel of the shopping mall? Should it be more open air? And then the problem begins because we are in the tropical area. People don't walk in the heat. And obviously, when we study a lot of existing shopping malls that are open air, yes, a lot fewer people walking during the day, a lot fewer.
Mm.
But now what happened? How are you going to balance between open air shopping mall with fewer people but safer, and this kind of enclosed box with full smart facilities, cleaning up, like control all this? I can't answer your question because I don't know, and people still struggling try to answer that questions at the moment.
Okay, I think, yeah, I think it would be a next section that we can find out.
Okay.
To get more ideas. Okay, maybe one last question. One people asking, what would be like the quality of life in the next 3 to 5 years? What would be a transform for facility to meet the quality of life in the next 3 to 5 years? What would be the aspect of the purpose of the facilities? I'm thinking about maybe our next problem would be the safety issue, the health issues. That's my findings of this question. How do we do the building, or how do we design or manage the building to be safer to the people who use it? I don't know if two of you guys maybe have some other.
It's a really interesting question, and you know, it's one of those questions where you could spend the next 30 minutes debating what is right, wrong, or indifferent, right? But I think the elements of the answer to, you know, what Dr. Singh mentioned around, you know, how do we evolve from the design, for example, take example the shopping mall example, closed space with the smartest cleaning, or an open air, but not so comfortable to walk around. Ultimately, I and this is my personal opinion, is that what impacts the quality of life and in the next 3 to 5 years is, you know, I think the elements we talk about, safety, the elements we talk about, comfort, are there. But if you take those and you take the person trying to use the facility, be it a condominium, be it a factory, be it a logistics warehouse, be it a commercial space, mixed use development. What did they go to the facility for? How do they work, live, play, if possible, in that facility? And what do they go back to from? So the facility serves many different purposes. Some are more designed for live, some are more designed for play, some are more designed for work. Ultimately, the user goes in there, you have to make sure they are optimized to do the intention of the work they're supposed to do there, whether it's to live, play, or work, right? So many different facets of the answer there. But that's kind of my thought process when you talk about how do we impact the quality of life in the next 3 to 5 years. I say go back to what the facility was originally designed for, what you are trying to do in that from an end user perspective, maximize that, right? COVID has emphasized certain factors, safety, right? But ultimately, you can be as safe as you want, but if the facility doesn't do what you need to do there, no one's going to go there, right? And if you don't actually go to the facility,
there's no point.
There's no point.
Got it. Yeah. Dr. Singh, do you have anything to add on to this last
Very tough, because you asked what will be the quality of life for the next 3 to 5 years. I think people today demands a lot, and they have shorter attention span. They want things to be delivered very quickly, to be to improve, to meet their quality of life standards have changed a lot. So I think to meet their quality standard in the next 3 to 5 years, to me, is the responsiveness of the facilities. And you don't know what they want. The work, play, live, that Wei Loon was talking about. But the thing is, how can we be more responsive? How can we be quicker? How can we solve the problem really quickly than before? Because people are so it's one thing instantly. And I think facility managers need to think ahead a little bit about not only managing physical facility, but you have to think about digital facilities too. Because in the future, there will be a bridge between physical and digital more and more. And I think it's time for facility manager to manage digital environment as much as physical environment. That's my view.
Wow, that's a great closing statement. I think we can have another section on the digital or IoT data analysis in the building or in facilities. And
because you asked me to think about 5 years ahead, I don't see it. So that's how I see that we're going to be more O2O, offline, online more and more for sure. So I think that's how I view it.
Yeah, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, that. We have a really fun discussion. It's been 1.5 hours now. If you don't realize that we have been doing quick answer and then answer some question that have been asking on the floor. So maybe we're closing down here. If Kunpiti would like to take a photo of every participant in the room.
If possible, everybody, please.
Everybody, please open.
Turn on your camera if possible.
Turn on your camera, please. And then Kunbert will take a photo.
Please, Kunbert, please help to capture all if possible. Thank you.
Yes, don't be shy. Switch on your camera and we can take a photo together.
I see Kunek too here. All right. Do we count, Kunbert?
We have to capture a lot of page, I think.
Okay.
Maybe
so Kunbert can count.
Okay. Kun Ek, your phone is like flipping.
Or flip upside down. Okay.
Okay, so pizza or cheese? Just 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Okay.
Let me check.
Thank you for both of you very much. Have a good chance
okay.
to Professor Dr. Singh to give a good chance for us to be here, and Mr. Loh too. Very pleasure of us to have you two here, and we hope we have good chance and build together for facility management in the future.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Singh, for your time and attention to this meeting. We have a very short notice. You just still spare some time to us, and also Mr. Wei Loon Loh that and participate to this meeting as well. Your ideas and some of the thought has been very helpful for us to think forward. Okay, and then before we are closing today, I would like to have some closing speech. They said, for us, we believe that the knowledge can improve our living quality every day. And we believe that sharing can solidify our society stronger every time we met. And we believe that creativity can change the old simple day as special days. So I would like to closing today by the quoting from the legendary scientist quote from Albert Einstein. He said, "Logic will get you from A to B, but imagination will take you everywhere." Okay, that's it. Stay safe, everyone, and have a good night today. And then
thank you all.
Thank you so much for both of you to join.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Bye bye.
ขอบคุณค่ะ
Good day. Bye bye.
Thank you.
ขอบคุณอาจารย์สิงห์มากครับ
ค่ะ
ขอบคุณมากครับ Thank you very much everybody
ขอบคุณทุกท่านครับ